I don't like bullies. I don't care where they're from.
Yo. I was drinking orange juice when you started recording, but we are back.
It sounded like you enjoyed it.
I did. Welcome to Source to Screen, the podcast where we read comic books so that you don't have to. We talk about source material and how it is adapted to the big screen, or sometimes a smaller screen if it's
or sometimes your iPhone.
That is a smaller screen, is it not?
Yes.
That's what
but you weren't talking about an iPhone.
I would just, whatever. Anyways. This intro's rough. All right, we are back, and what are we talking about today?
A movie that I feel like is super underrated, The Incredible Hulk from 2008. Hulk. Not to be confused with Ang Lee's Hulk from 2003?
Around there, give or take.
I think it's 2003 or 2004.
So
which is another film that I don't have a problem with.
I do. But we'll talk about that. So this is an MCU canon film. It's been kind of like softly rewritten in, but since we can't do speculation on the movie, I thought we would talk about some cool facts about it.
Mm-hmm. Also, don't know if you noticed, cool fact, Mark Ruffalo is not in this film.
No, this is Ed Norton. I'm glad you caught that. If only eagle-eyed viewers were able to notice that this wasn't Mark Ruffalo.
Totally different actor.
This is the only movie that had a main hero recast. The only other character that comes to mind is Don Cheadle recasted Terrence Howard as War Machine.
Mm-hmm.
There was a couple of recasts in the first MCU.
Does Spider-Man count, or is that no?
No, he was never cast in the MCU.
Okay. I just wasn't sure.
No, I'm just making sure. Yeah, I get you. No.
Okay.
Answer is no. But some other interesting things are that two actors, there's one actor I didn't even realize was in this, but Dr. Sampson, who's a very famous Hulk character, is in this movie. He has a very brief cameo, and I don't even think they mention his name. I don't think they mention it.
Yeah, I've seen
this
by me.
You and I have seen this movie in
a bunch of times,
like 3 times together, and I've seen it a bunch of other times. I've seen this movie like 6 or 7 times, and I've never once gone like, "Oh, that's Doc Samson," like ever.
No, they really
underplayed that one. Yeah. And
I think they do that all the time in like Marvel and DC movies, where they're kind of like throwaways, that Easter egg out there, and just in case they use it later, because they're like, well, we introduced him here. Remember the character whose name that we never said.
Well, this movie has dropped off a lot of those. So in this movie, we have the leader and also Abomination. Abomination specifically has almost been cast in 2 movies. The same actor who is
Tim Roth.
Movies like Heart of Darkness, and you've probably seen Pulp Fiction.
Little movie you've probably heard of.
Maybe. Pretty famous actor. And he has been actually like approached. People have interviewed him, and he's like, yeah, like he was going to be in Age of Ultron and Civil War. So they keep calling him, and then like they're like, hey, you might be in this movie. And then later they're like, not really. So I feel bad. And
I
he's
hope
like,
he still gets paid.
Yeah, and he's always down. Like he's like, yeah, I'd love to replay the character. And I think he does a good job. But we'll talk more about that. What's also weird is this movie, I think, started as a soft reboot. So if you don't know, the MCU fights for some of the rights for its characters. They recently just acquired the X-Men and Fantastic Four franchises from Fox, because they acquired Fox. They have a partnership with Sony for Spider-Man. And as a matter of fact, the people that own the Hulk are not Marvel. It's Universal Pictures. They own Hulk, which is why we don't have a Incredible Hulk 2.
Which is even more dumb, because Universal Studios used to have a ride that was the Incredible Hulk ride.
They can still
not
make
there
that
anymore.
Ride. Yeah, they don't even use the ride anymore.
Or the Spider-Man ride.
No, that was awesome. I remember that one.
That's not there anymore either.
I must have missed the Hulk ride. I don't remember seeing that one. There was a Hulk ride. That's the fun trivia. What's also interesting is because this is Universal, this is almost a soft reboot of Ang Lee's Hulk movie. So Ang Lee's Hulk movie is a direct origin, and this one would kind of take place after. What started as a soft reboot ended up making its way into the MCU. So at the end of Ang Lee's Hulk movie, which we should do an episode on because it's a very unique movie.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of that, he ends up in Guatemala, South America. So Hulk is traveling in South America, and in this next film, he's in Brazil. And I
think I asked you that too. I'm like, are these connected? Because the endings are so close.
So loosely. It's very loosely.
Well, also when you think how the flow of the story goes, like the origin is the 03 one as he's becoming the Hulk, and then the next one, it's like he already is the Hulk.
Exactly.
So that's why
another
it seems
thing
like it's playing off of
is
that.
We've never seen General Talbot, who's in that movie, because he blows himself up with a rocket launcher, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
and
right.
There's no canon General Talbot. There's a General Talbot in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is also technically not canon. So I don't know. I don't know. So there is that. And then what's really interesting and what we kind of found when we did some research about this is that the movie's mostly based off the Incredible Hulk show. It takes aspects of the comics with Lou Ferrigno and the other guy. I'll look it up in a minute.
Other guy?
I'll look it up in a minute. But did you have any fun facts about this movie?
No. You've said them all. So mine was that Mark Ruffalo is not in this film.
That was your one? I said we were going to start the episode fun facts. That's what you brought?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty fun facts.
Lou Ferrigno is in...
His name is Lou, not Blue Ferrigno.
I said Lou Ferrigno.
He makes an appearance in the film.
I think he makes them in both films. I think he's a security guard in both.
Well, there you go. See? Another fun fact.
Fun fact, I met him in person. He wasn't very nice to me.
You can't say that.
I can say that someone wasn't very nice to me.
What if he's listening? I was going to beat you up.
He is deaf. So he...
What does that have to do with anything?
Well, podcasts may not be his favorite source of media.
Someone could, sign the podcast to him or something.
Okay. I apologize, Lou Ferrigno. One of our longtime listeners, from the bottom of my heart, Mr. Blueberry is sorry. But you didn't let him take a picture of you, and you made me almost pay $100, which back then was a lot of money. Anyways,
let's get into the movie.
Getting
off track. So would you like to go first? Likes, dislikes?
How about you go first? I like your take of this movie.
It was good.
I no longer like your take of this movie.
No, this is I think this is one of the most underrated Marvel movies out there, and people give this movie a lot of shit, but it's actually pretty dang good. One thing I really love about the movie, for starters, just the cinematography and getting into film terms, the mise en scène.
Is that how it's pronounced?
Mise en scène.
I never took French.
Film teachers have pronounced it 20 different ways. So
mise en scène.
It's mise en scène, mise en scène, whatever's your fancy. But yeah, just the cinematography of the movie is it has a very comic book look to it. I don't feel like the other MCU films, the newer ones, really capture that because they're trying to keep a consistent look. So it's very clean, very everything is well lit, but it doesn't have a style. Whereas this movie has harsh shadows and that very noir look from the 80s and 90s comics. So that's one of the biggest aspects I enjoy. And another thing is, if you rewatch the movie, if you look for things like this, there's always something green in the frame.
Oh, this is my favorite part of watching the movie with you.
And I mean, I should have played the game where, every time you see something green, take a shot.
I would have been killed by alcohol poisoning 20 minutes in.
But it'll be subtle things like a door will be colored green, or a lamp in the corner is green. There's always something that's starkly green. And I think that's really important in a film, just to kind of keep that subconscious
thematic tone.
Tone throughout. I thought that was really cool. And then it juxtaposed with red a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's supposed to kind of symbolize his rage as well, I guess.
Passion, love.
Passion, rage, or just blood, because he was messing with his blood at the beginning of the film. There's one scene in particular that you like for the cinematography.
Oh yeah, I mean since we're on it, I think that the movie's camera movements, there's some shots that I'm astonished how they create. They have this one shot where the Hulk throws a canister of soda, like a beverage at this facility, and it pulls back. No, he throws a guy. He throws a guy through a window. And they did it in Spider-Man 3, but it was all digital, but this was all practical, basically. And they do a pan and a tilt at the same time.
It tracks the movement of the guy going through this building
windows.
But it's at this weird like 3D angle because it's a building.
Mm-hmm. It's like the edge
of
a building.
Yeah, an office inside with like windows and shit.
And you see him go through the window and then out
twice.
The window towards you.
Yeah.
And it's just a really gorgeous shot. And this film is full of it. The first 45 minutes are like absolutely breathtaking. Like with the action and the cinematography in South America with that chase. It's probably one of the most excited I've been in a Marvel movie. And unlike oh, it's Captain America, he's going to kick everyone's ass. Or, oh, it's Iron Man, he's going to figure something out. I'm like, yo, shit, they're going to catch Bruce.
Well, yeah, and it's interesting to see, like, Bruce Banner doesn't really talk a lot. Because he's just on his own.
Mm-hmm.
Just, you're stuck with him for like 20 or 30 minutes where he's just like trying to survive and figure out how to fix himself from Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I think that's probably my favorite part of the movie, just the first like 30 or 40 minutes.
The color in Brazil is also just gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just like
the
film
landscape
is beautiful to
or
look
like
at.
the parkour with like all the wide helicopter shots of them running down all the rooftops. Like I think people have to come up with that stuff. That doesn't just like happen. Someone had to think, how am I going to arrange all these pieces? And they picked this location.
Mm-hmm. And just in terms of the art style, the coloring, the shots, all that is picked. And that's one thing about the Phase 1 films that I think is really interesting. They picked really great directors and cinematographers to make these films. And later down, really after Avengers 1, they got streamlined.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I think a lot of that artistic creativity kind of went out the window. Like what does a director of photography or color artist do on the Marvel movie? It's all the same people just doing them again and again. Like
right, exactly.
Black Panther looks just like Civil War, like for the most part. Like when they're in like that Korean area.
Well, I would debate that it doesn't, but
I mean, it has the same color artist. We know that. Or Age of Ultron looks just like Civil War.
Yeah,
same
sure.
Color. And even though they're totally different locations.
Right. I think Doctor Strange is one of the few that actually like isn't just.
I'd say Guardians does it. I would say Doctor Strange
Guardians
looks very similar. But anyways, I digress. I really like how vastly different Thor looks from Captain America, and Captain America looks from the first Hulk. The only one that kind of looks desaturated is Iron Man 1, and even that kind of pops.
Well, it also fits the narrative, like
of Iron Man,
of iron, steel,
sure.
Desaturated.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that stuff should service the story.
Exactly.
I think so, and I think this film really does that, just with all the color and the lighting. And we talked about the intro scene where Hulk first makes his appearance. You don't even see him. You just see shadows, and you see like little. It's like Batman Begins, where you just see kind of glimpses. I would
akin it more to a monster movie like Jaws.
Oh, totally, yeah.
Yeah. So like everyone's getting taken out by this giant thing, and everyone's like, "What the hell is it?" Of course, as comic fans know, it's the Hulk. But it's very cool to kind of establish that presence immediately off the presence of this film. You understand that this Hulk is uncontainable, basically, and I really think they established his presence well by not showing, by action.
Right.
By withholding, like in Jaws, when you don't show the shark, but you start playing the music, it's just that much more scary.
Mm-hmm.
And when you finally see it, you're like, oh, damn.
Exactly.
It's a tease.
And, well, speaking of music, I think this has probably top 3 Marvel soundtracks.
Agreed.
Of all time thus far.
I'd say it's number 3 for me.
If you want to like get a really good workout or like a really good cardio run or something, just got to put Favela
Chase.
Favela Chase.
Favela Escape.
Favela Escape,
That's
yeah.
what it's called. That's in my running playlist.
Shit is off the hook. This is a super good soundtrack, and weirdly enough, it's the same guy who did Moulin Rouge, like who helped
Craig Armstrong.
Yeah, he helped.
Is that his name?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a weird like jump from one to the other.
And yeah, just throughout the movie, the music that he picks, I would say, keeps pace. If he's doing something very sciencey, it really slows it down. If he's in an action scene or an epic scene, it really helps you capture the feeling of Hulk's rage. It's very bombastic. I think it's because I think Hulk must be an interesting character to like score music to, because Captain America just make it super patriotic. Iron Man, make it fucking metal. Hulk, you have to capture Bruce and the Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's interesting that he would have to capture both of those elements and make a score that can encapsulate both of them.
Well, it's interesting, like, I don't know if you remember the music, like there's this running theme when the Hulk comes on screen. He goes, da, 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 and he always uses an organ, which I'm like, that just sounds kind of fucking epic.
I don't remember the organ.
It's like, it's back. When it happens like throughout the movie, but in the final fight with him and Abomination after he...
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and there's just there's these 3 chords and that he does every time, and he uses this organ, and I just get chills. I'm like, holy shit. Like, it just sounds like just really epic sounding music, and I thought that was an interesting choice.
They also did the sad Hulk theme, didn't they?
Oh, yeah, they stole that from the show.
The TV show.
Yeah, there's a scene that always happens in... the Incredible Hulk show where he's like walking on the road, and it plays this this piano music every single time
Sad Hulk
for the
music.
end credits.
Yeah.
He's forever wandering. And lastly, I just really like the fight scenes, like the action sequences in this, especially the final fight, because we still haven't really gotten a real Hulk except for in Age of Ultron. Like, but even then, he's never really fought Thanos or someone that's closer to his level, and
it's been very brief.
Yeah, and I think this is one of the few times we actually get to see Hulk fighting another, like his own equivalent, and it's just a badass fight. Like, just seeing him go into fucking rage mode.
That is true. We haven't seen him fight Juggernaut. We see him never fought Red Hulk. Man, there's some stuff we've missed.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
We've been seriously deprived of some Hulk stuff.
And then we'll get She-Hulk, but it's, She-Hulk's cool, but it's not the same. But yeah, I think the action is really, really well done in the movie, particularly the end fight and the chase at the beginning.
I agree, especially I put this down as I like how he uses his environment. The Hulk in the MCU now usually just smashes shit together, but what I like about this Hulk is he uses like pieces of cars. He found like this big old anchor he starts using as a chain. He did the thunderclap, which he hasn't done since. Like, he does
classic Hulk.
Yeah, classic
moves.
Hulk moves. As a matter of fact, I feel like this Hulk, despite how I feel about Ruffalo, has had more Hulk iconic moments in one movie than the other Hulk has in all the movies.
Right. And his villains are pretty like up to par. Like, I was never taken out of any moment with like Ross or Abomination or whatever. Like, I really felt like they did a good job.
I thought the leader was kind of rushed in there.
Sure, I mean,
he's not really in there. It's just like a teaser.
Yeah.
We'll go back to that in a minute. It's so stupid.
All right. Well, that's my positives. I don't have too many negatives with the movie. I mean, there's a few things that I would like to see versus what isn't there, I guess.
Okay. Like what?
I mean, I would just like to see at least a continuation of the character, for starters.
That can't be a reflection of this movie.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I don't really have too many.
You don't have any problems with this movie?
They're just like during the final fight. This is one thing I had an issue with, which you both did, is when like everyone in the helicopter except for like the 2 main characters didn't die.
Yeah, so a helicopter crashes with Betty Ross and Thunderbolt Ross and like 12 Marines. All 12 Marines die, which, by the way, were wearing their safety seatbelts. And the 2 people not wearing safety seatbelts were A-okay. I don't know if this was a PSA. Don't wear your seatbelt.
Well, and then Hulk does a thunderclap, and I'm like, yo, they're fucking deaf.
Yeah, they can't hear.
I mean, I'm surprised he didn't like clap their face off.
I mean, that's just like, movie physics. I can get over that.
But I mean,
it was annoying.
Yeah.
It's like, well, the shockwave would have killed them. How'd you feel about the casting? Because that's you and I have like the same positives. The only thing I was going to say is I thought the casting was pretty good.
Yeah, it was on point. I really don't have too much of a problem with Ed Norton. I don't think he's like any worse than Eric Bana. I think more the problem is like on the other side, like behind the scenes of trying to deal with him as an actor who's trying to also be the director and the writer of the movie.
And how'd you feel about Liv Tyler?
Oh, I thought she was great. I think they, like, in the other Hulk movie, they went for this whole, like, let's find an actress who talks very calm, who's a very calming presence. And they kind of continued that in this one. And I think that's, that really fits the tone where she can just, like, calm him down, especially after fucking Black Widow just makes no sense to, like, be Bruce's kind of, like,
I'm not having
Zen.
another Age of Ultron discussion. We
already agree on this anyway, so.
I'm indifferent.
It's not what you said before.
Yeah, so here are my pros. I really do like the casting. I think Ed Norton captures a lot of Bruce Banner. I do like Mark Ruffalo, but honestly, I don't think Mark Ruffalo's been given a script. For me, it's like
to be fair,
it's like Tom Holland. He hasn't been given a good Spider-Man script to work with, so you can't fault him too much.
No, I'm just saying based off of what we have now. I can only judge what exists.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I don't mind Ed Norton overall. Like, I thought in the beginning of the movie, him as Bruce Banner, I think really, really worked.
Yeah.
And I think his chemistry with Liv Tyler was good too.
Yeah, I felt it. It was there. My cons are Ty Burrell. He's the guy in that American Family show. I forget what it's called. Oh, Modern Family. That's what it's called.
There you go.
He's Doc Sampson. And like I said, I've watched this movie 6 times and never noticed it. He's a pretty big character, and we'll get into it a little more in the comics.
He's also that guy in Dawn of the Dead, the Zack Snyder one.
Oh, the asshole who gets everyone killed.
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't fit that role right either.
No.
Because he looks like a nice guy. Anyways, I thought that casting was really weird, and his role in the movie was super unnecessary. And then what else I didn't like was the pace. I think the beginning is really strong, and the middle kind of loses its footing, and then the ending is just really quick. But other than that, I think the movie's pretty solid. I just think that the ending just kind of happens. And then it's over.
Yeah, and I think, again, that seemed like a thing with Ed Norton where, he was trying to rewrite things, but they're trying to, fit in the pieces in the puzzle.
To a story.
Yeah, so then it's like, it seemed like they were putting all this fucking exposition in the middle, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, we've been watching the movie for an hour and 45, we got to wrap it up. And so they just wrapped it.
Right, and that would have been fun trivia, that Ed Norton was recast because he was just too demanding on set and wanted to be marked as a producer.
And a writer.
And when they didn't, he was like, surprise Pikachu. Yeah, it turns out you're just the actor, Ed. Just say the lines. And I couldn't imagine him and RDJ working well together, but I guess him and Mark Ruffalo are actually friends and they joke about it a lot.
That's funny. Awkward.
Haha, I got your job.
Yeah, it's funny, Mark.
I'm not gonna lie, if one of my best friends took my job, I'd be like, yo, that's low-key fucked.
Well, also, fun fact, there is a scene that they filmed where the Hulk kills himself or tries to kill himself in Antarctica.
And that is later referenced in Avengers, which everyone was really confused in because we're like, I don't remember that scene.
Well,
and that's because they deleted it.
Well, that scene was supposed to be like the opening of the movie, and I'm like, it's not a good opening.
What's also weird about that opening is Captain America's shield is there. So what happens is he goes crazy and he breaks out of his house and he's like in the middle of Antarctica, and Cap is happened to be frozen not too far from the cabin where Hulk like busted out. So Hulk's rage saved Captain America.
That's weird.
It's
That's
not
too
great.
Much.
It's not great.
That's very comic booky. I'll give them
super
that,
comic booky. I think it even happened in the Avengers
It's just
TV
like
show.
way over the top for a movie.
Thank God. Hulk.
Also, that would be not a strong opener.
Right.
You just open with a Hulk trying to like slit his wrist.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh.
Mommy, why did Hulk put a gun in his mouth?
We're leaving.
Oh, yeah, we're leaving. I was in a drive-in when I saw it. It was pretty sick.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, a drive-in
Fun
theater.
fact.
Fun fact. Mr. Blueberry saw it in the drive-in theater. Fell asleep at the 45-minute mark.
You didn't even finish the movie?
No, I finished it. I woke up, and then I fell asleep right after the cool scene, like when they went in the cave, and I'm like, oh, man, I'm tired. And then I fell asleep. I was pretty young, 2008.
I forgot. You're a baby.
I'm not a baby. Man. I'm a big man. But yeah, I got sleepy, so I had to watch it again.
You're like 13.
Yep.
You're not even small.
Yeah. I was very small. Whatever. I like the movie. It's a good movie.
All right. So you said things you did like. What didn't you like?
Just the pace and the quick end,
pace.
really. And yeah.
What about his design?
I'm okay with it. What I do prefer about the Mark Ruffalo Hulk is that he looks like Mark Ruffalo and they face scanned him and all that. And I like this Hulk and Ed Norton look nothing alike. Not that that's a huge problem, but it is. I do like that decision to make Hulk look like Mark Ruffalo. Vaguely.
The only issue I had with his look, I didn't mind the face and everything. His eyes kind of looked weird. But the green was weird. Like I could probably go back and like Photoshop the whole movie and just make the green the way I want it.
Could you Photoshop either Ed Norton in all the other MCU movies or Mark Ruffalo in this one movie? It just bugs me because I don't want to go through.
Your OCD.
If you could also face swap Don Cheadle over Terrence Howard in the first movie, just for my OCD, it frickin' kills me. It destroys me. I know that last one is possibly not great, but I just need you to do it for my OCD.
I'll think about it.
I need a George Lucas edit of all these movies.
I'll contact Marvel and be like, I think you're sitting on a gold mine.
Mm-hmm.
The Probert cut.
The Probert cut. Oh, God.
But yeah, that's my only problem. It's like kind of a forest, like weird pale green. It's not kind of
you don't like the
vibe.
green.
No, it's not vibrant.
Mm-hmm.
His eyes are very vibrant, which I liked.
Mm-hmm.
They're just a weird shape.
The movie also has good emotional impact, which
It does.
Yeah, like I actually do care. And like when Hulk gets mad because Betty's hurt and he like he presses against the glass, it's well acted. It's well acted for sure.
Mm-hmm. There's also it's like when I first saw it, it was kind of unpredictable. Like I wouldn't have known
it was going to take
where
that
it was
direction.
going to go. Yeah.
Hmm.
It's a pretty solid movie. Like I feel like at one time we were spoiled based off the blockbusters we got at a certain time. Like, from like 2005 to about 2012, there were some really solid blockbusters. But now it's like, I feel like The Incredible Hulk is a blockbuster that, or even just like a movie that does well, that should like set the bar for like action movies or blockbuster movies. Because it's a fun movie, but it's well acted, it's well written.
Mm-hmm.
You may not think
Has
about
some
it
substance.
in a year or something, yeah, but it's like all these pieces are in play.
Mm.
Now you have movies that don't even hit any kind of mark. You know what I mean? It's like the acting sucks, the writing sucks, the music is just fucking hip hop from the last 3 years.
Sure. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
What I was gonna say, oh man, what was I gonna say? You made me think of it. This is also the first movie where we realized that the MCU was building, because you had Sam Jackson at the end of Iron Man 1, like, Nick Fury, director of S.H.I.E.L.D. And you're like, ooh, that's cool. He's like, I'm here to talk to you about the Avengers Initiative. Then they did the Hulk movie. And then you saw Tony at the end of the Hulk movie. And I was like, what? What?
Do you think that was their ploy to make everyone sit through the credits?
Well, they already had a post-credit scene. Each movie had a post-credit scene.
Yeah, but they don't have to put it there.
I actually missed the Nick Fury one. I thought someone photoshopped it when I was younger. I was like, that was weird. And then I saw the one in Hulk, and then I went back in Iron Man.
Well, that was the first one.
Yeah, so I missed the first one in theaters.
But I'm saying, like...
Also, my mom was not going to sit through credits.
No.
She's like,
but that's what I'm saying. It's like, it makes people sit and see all those names through the credits. Because they don't have to put them there. They could literally just put how they do like 2 credits and then they put a scene and then 2 more credits and then they put a scene.
Marvel made that famous.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a trap.
All right. You want to get into the comics?
Sure. Let's take a little break.
Fake break. Activate. Hit the funky jams. Oh, we back?
Yeah.
Oh, man, that was really fast. I'm sorry. I was looking at my phone and I really hurt my neck. Oh, man.
Get your notes out. Everybody get your notes. Look at all these pages of notes.
This is terrible. I really feel like we needed a second to calm down. Can we cancel?
No, finish your drink.
I haven't been drinking water. Okay. So we're going to talk about comics, I guess, because I can't even drink water in peace. What do we got?
Well, the problem with Hulk comics, right? I didn't realize.
They're weird as hell.
Not just that. A lot of them are the fucking same.
Yeah.
I talked about this earlier.
A lot of Hulk
They're
tropes.
so samey. Like, in the comic universe, there'll be phases of a character and it'll have a different title. So you kind of know, like, oh, the Ultimate Spider-Man here or Spectacular Spider-Man here. Hulk, his name doesn't fucking change until like the 2000s. It just says the Incredible Hulk for like 40 years.
Then you have Tales to Astonish Hulk because he kind of wasn't that successful. So he kind of went back into joint comics with Ant-Man and Wasp. Like,
yeah, it's really weird.
He has a weird history. For sure.
And there was I was actually reading a quote this writer had who he had written Hulk comics for years. And he's like, I cannot write Hulk comics anymore for the sake of my career.
This is the trivia that I was asking for.
Yeah, well, this is the comic section. So this is the comic trivia section. But I thought I think his name was Tony something, but I thought that was fucking hilarious. He's like, for the sake of my career, I cannot continue to write these comics.
It's interesting. So,
it reminds me of what's his face? Lindsey Graham. They are killing me financially.
Okay, so Hulk comics are very similar, and a lot of I think movie directors have mentioned that it's very hard to write the Hulk as a character because the Hulk mainly runs from the government, fights as an Avenger. Or I kind of said the same thing with Black Panther. They're kind of not like one note, but they don't really do anything.
Well, I don't think they've been given a chance.
Sure. And sometimes they'll do something like, a lot of times what Hulk has as his way out is they'll delve into his multiple personalities. So Hulk, I think in the late 80s, developed multiple personalities.
I think you're talking about the 91 run.
Could
late
be.
80s, early 90s, I think.
Yeah, it happened a lot. He's developed personalities such as Joe Fixit, the Las Vegas mobster, where he wears this big old pimp suit, like this pinstripe thing, and his skin is not green but gray. There's Savage Hulk. There's Devil Hulk.
So it's like Split.
Yeah, it's very much like Split. And sometimes in the comics, you will be seeing all these different versions of Hulk talking to Bruce. And Bruce is like stuck in there, not unlike the way that they represent it in Split.
Or Spider-Man with Doc Ock inside
his brain, yeah. You read that?
Yeah.
How'd you read it?
I read.
Okay. I'm not saying you don't. But
I look at pictures.
Okay.
With words.
Yeah, those are comics. Okay, anyways... So there are those, and there are certain elements that we haven't seen of Hulk, but this movie gives very broad strokes of comics we've seen.
It's a lot more cinematic.
Yeah, it's a lot more cinematic.
Like most simplest terms.
And was inspired heavily by the show. And I haven't seen the show in quite some time.
Which is inspired by comics. So
which is also inspired
full circle.
Comics. So first off, I will start with saying that the kind of machine is kind of like Bruce Banner seems to be designed vaguely off the Ultimates Bruce Banner. I'm looking at Ultimates number 1 through 5, which is like Avengers comics early in 2000s. Multiple artists and writers, so can't really cite them all. But long story short, Bruce Banner is tasked with designating a new super soldier serum, and he has multiple failures, and he tests it on himself. In this version, which I kind of have issues with, he thinks he's working on like nuclear power or something else, because this Bruce Banner is super against war or something, which is far from the original Bruce Banner, who was trying to make a freaking nuke. Anyways, he's like,
what are you going to do with that?
Right. Well, he tests it on himself to see if the stuff works, and it turns him into the Hulk, a super soldier. And General Thunderbolt Ross is like, that's exactly what we wanted. And that's kind of more like the Ultimates. He was trying to recreate Captain America's formula, and Ross is trying to capitalize on that.
Well, that's not like explicitly said in the movie, but
no, Ross says it to Blonsky.
Does he?
Yeah. When Blonsky's like, what do you want with this guy that turns into a 12-foot green monster and kills a lot of people? And he's like, I want him because penis enlargement. Yep. What a co-host. Thank you so much for helping me keep this comic podcast in check. Comics. So that's what I gathered. Did you see anything in Hulk Origins that rang a bell in terms of him becoming the Hulk?
I mean, really just, his struggle to not want to be the Hulk all the time.
Yeah, there's never...
That's a pretty prevalent theme.
Which is kind of nice, because he's less of a reluctant hero, but he was like... kind of like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. He doesn't want to give in to that.
Right. But, I mean, to be fair, this isn't, like, totally common. Mm-hmm. Like, you would think that storyline is just all of the Hulk, but the Hulk it can be an asshole as well in the comics.
Sure. Can be.
Mm-hmm.
Another one I wanted to get into is the Incredible Hulk #1 with Lee and Kirby. That's the original... I think that's the original debut of the Hulk, who originally was gray, but because of a printing error, he was green. And they're like, we like that better. And also, printing in, colors was kind of not popular. So they wanted to save on color as much as possible. I think they were like, actually, he looks way better in green. So they just kept printing him in green. But so in that one, General Thunderbolt Ross and his daughter, Betty, why the fuck he brought his daughter, I'll never know. He's like, oh, let's go check this nuke out. And it's funny.
He's a really bad father.
Yeah, he's not a great father in comics, and they really got that in this movie. They capitalized on that. He's just like...
My daughter's safety is my number one concern.
Gets captured multiple times. Shoots an Apache helicopter missiles at her. Almost runs over her with a tank. And then there's a line that you and I laughed at where she dates Dr. Sampson in the movie and Bruce Banner. She's like, where does she find these guys? And I'm like, your daughter is dating renowned doctors, leaders in their field. Like, I hope my daughter dates the most renowned doctor in gamma radiation and or psychiatry. Like, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want your daughter to date? A jughead?
Her safety is his number one concern. Unfortunately, that is trumped by him trying to catch the Hulk, because that is definitely number one.
That is number one. Oh, it's funny, in the comics, his name is Thunderbolt Ross, and he'll just go, "By thunder," like, which sounds like the lamest thing. He's like, "By thunder, Bruce, this bomb better work. By thunder."
I thought that was like a stock or something.
Like by thunder stock. No, he's like by the thunder. He's like Thor. He's like by really thunder's wrath.
In your IRA.
Jeez. But long story short, Bruce is like kind of cocky, and one of his subservient guys is like, "Hey, let me see what you've been doing with this gamma bomb." And he's like, "No, Jenkins." Oh, actually, his name's Igor, which I thought was really weird.
Yeah. You told me that.
He's like, "No, Igor, it's all in my secret memory bank." And then Rick Jones, which also becomes a form of Abomination called A-Bomb, is just chilling in the nuclear testing field because he was like dared to chill there. So he's like brushing his hair because back then he was what do they call that? The guys from Greece?
Like a greaser.
Greaser, yeah. The guys from Greece, greasers. That was hard, Tristan. Good job. And I said my name on a podcast again. Anyways, Long story short.
We can bleep that out if you want.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Long story
Puts name like 100 times.
In the comments, whatever. Long story short, Bruce like drives in a Jeep to go save what's his name? I just said his name. Rick Jones. And he goes to save Rick Jones and he throws him in a hole, but the gamma bomb goes off because he's building a gamma bomb, a nuke. And they're like, oh, that should have killed you. And then he becomes the Hulk. I like this one scene where Rick Jones goes like, yeah, I was a good for nothing. My mama and dada left me when I was a kid and I was raised in an orphanage and all you did was save my life. He gives like his whole backstory in a single panel. Meanwhile, Bruce Banner has just woken up from his coma. From a nuclear blast.
What the fuck just happened? Why is this guy telling me his life story?
Why is this guy not in jail for trespassing on a nuclear testing facility?
You know, that's Rick Jones.
And he's a very important doc. That's something that's kind of interesting that we haven't seen in the MCU. There's no freaking Hulk characters. There's no Doc Sampson. There's no Jennifer Walters. Thunderbolt Ross. Thunderbolt. Yeah, he came back in Civil War and Infinity War, I guess.
Well, I guess
no Betty Ross. No Rick Jones, like a lot of characters, even villains, like just Hulk's kind of like when you read these comics, there's a lot of gold in these comics. Some of it's not great. And he's one of your personal favorites for Marvel. Mm-hmm. So I kind of get upset. And I think like the multiple personalities route is super interesting, but we're already on like Smart Hulk. We're kind of like.
Well, it'd be weird in the Avengers if he just walks out with a fucking pimp suit and you're like.
I'm not going to lie. I want it so bad. Even as like a reference. He could wear it to like a wedding or something.
I'm into it.
Black Widow's dead, so for now.
TBD.
But yeah, so those are kind of similar to the Hulk intro in some ways. Did you have any?
Well, you are correct. Hulk comics are weird, and it's really frustrating because a lot of the times they'll like the beginning of a run, it'll start out just kind of normal, okay, and then usually by the third or fourth issue, you're like, what the fuck just happened? Why? So I was reading this one, which I was really into. It's The Incredible Hulk 1999. So the Hulk, he's doing his thing like, you know, hitchhiking, going from town to town, and he hits this small town and he gets a hotel. And while he's sleeping in this like little hotel motel, he has a dream that he's the Hulk and he has destroyed the town. And he wakes up and he's like, man, that was a crazy dream. And the town is fucking destroyed.
Okay.
So he's like, oh shit, I should get out of town. But he hops to another person's house like not too far away, who's the sheriff of the town. And same shit happens. He goes to sleep, thinks he's like dreaming, and then the Hulk is like destroying stuff. So I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And then he also talks about his kind of struggle with controlling the Hulk and how he's trying to get rid of it. And he tells the sheriff all this, and the sheriff is like a little girl that likes him and kind of like keeps him under control.
The sheriff was a little girl?
The sheriff has a little girl.
Okay, it sounded like he was a little girl.
No, the sheriff has a little girl. And then by like the fourth issue, the comic shifts and it's like some other dude controlling the Hulk via VR. And I'm like, what?
Oh, that is kind of stupid.
Yeah, there was like a huge jump.
What does this have to do with the ability, the fact he was trying to control his rage? Was he trying to control it in any way, or?
Well, that's what I'm saying. It didn't even touch on that because it jumped to this, oh, he's actually being controlled by VR. And like this guy would he would turn on the VR and make Hulk destroy shit.
Okay.
And that's where it went. And then he like fights Wolverine and the Avengers like 3 comics later.
Interesting. I think I read the same series. Do you remember what issue that was? Because I read issue 25.
I read issue 1 through 10, and it's just Hulk, no Incredible 1999 run.
Hulk 1999. I read number 25, and that one has Emil Blonsky as Abomination. Basically, Abomination had killed Betty, and Hulk like just straight up found out, and he was like fighting with his alternate egos and personalities, and that's kind of where I was talking about some of that stuff. And he's like, you know what? I'm gonna go fucking kill him. And what's weird is his Hulk personalities are like, you have to learn to forgive. But little Bruce Banner's like, I'm gonna fucking kill him. And he basically almost does. He finds him, he jumps, and he starts beating the shit out of him. But what kind of happens is Ross goes like, oh yeah, I'd love to show you Betty's dead body, but it's like off limits. But it's also in a glass container. Now, I should probably reread that because that wasn't clear. But anyways, so he almost kills Abomination, just like beats the shit out of him. His skull's like bleeding out. And then Thunderbolt Ross is like, we're going to take him from here. And they keep him locked up, which I think is a parallel to this movie because that's like one of the few times that Thunderbolt Ross actually goes after Abomination. He usually goes after Hulk. So I thought that was interesting. He keeps him locked up, but what's kind of messed up is what Bruce Banner does is when he's locked up, he keeps playing footage of his ex-wife, which in this comic is Amelia Blonsky, or girlfriend. I don't know if they're married, but it was the last love interest, and he keeps playing one of their home videos, and I guess she's dead now. So he's torturing her. Like that video's on loop forever, and he's like, "This is what you get for killing the love of my life."
It's fucked.
It was weird, but I think it's kind of interesting how Thunderbolt Ross captured him. The suicide thing I've never read, but I found some comics that kind of go into it. Marvel Comics is Startling Stories, which is kind of nice that they had this. I think this is in 2001, but they always had Tales to Astonish, Amazing Fantasy. So they had one called Startling Stories, which are more kind of grounded and brutal. Bruce Banner tries to kill himself at the end, and it's very similar to that deleted scene we talk about where he spits out the bullet. Hulk spits it out. It's actually a cliffhanger. He shoots himself, and in the next issue, Hulk spits it out. And in similar comics I've read, he's tried slitting his wrist, eating pills, jumping off. There was one where he jumped into the Grand Canyon while drunk. And that one, I guess, was a pretty bad rampage. I think he fights Wolverine in that one, too. I just like when Hulk and Wolverine are just both in the middle of butt fuck nowhere.
Yeah, and Old Man Logan.
Oh, yeah. Well, that one's really gruesome. But
there's a lot of Hulks in that one.
Yeah. I just kind of like when Hulk and Wolverine are both in the middle of like Antarctica and they're like, what's up?
We doing this?
I guess we're doing this. Why else would we both be here? And they both fight the Wendigo, which is like an abominable snowman with a tail.
Yep.
Wendigo. It just
That's
says
in
his name.
Until Dawn.
What is that?
The video game.
I have no idea what that is.
It's a video game.
The Wendigo is in Until Dawn?
Yes.
I thought Marvel made the Wendigo. Is this like a real thing?
No, Marvel just takes everything.
Hold on. Is a Wendigo a real thing? Not like a real thing, but like
it's in that game.
Hold on, I'm Googling. The Wendigo, ultra is a mythological creature of evil spirit from folklore of the First Nations of Macquarian tribes based in the northern forest of Nova Scotia.
I don't know why you think Marvel...
Oh, this looks way more terrifying.
Marvel is like original with their stories.
It looks like an evil reindeer.
They're like the Disney of comics. They just take...
Oh my god, these are terrifying.
Other stories. Yeah.
Thanks.
It's in that horror game, Until Dawn. They talk about a Wendigo.
What's interesting is you mentioned Bruce Banner trying to control the beast. Sorry. And there's been times where he's tried meditation. In his first comic, I don't know if you know this because they were trying to cure him. In his first comic, if you read the first 6 issues of The Incredible Hulk, the Hulk powers just go away. They just wear off. The gamma bomb just wears off.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, well, here's what's funny. So he goes, I'm no longer the Hulk, thank God. And then the Avengers issue #1 happens, and he's immediately back the Hulk.
Sick.
And they never address it. He was just like, Hulk smash. And everyone's like, weren't you like cured because time? So he just goes back full rage. And he's been the Hulk ever since. There's been times where he has died. Hawkeye killed him most recently in Civil War II, which I don't enjoy that comic, but he killed him with an arrow made by Stark. And then he's died a couple of other times, and he's been cured a couple of times.
He's also been shot in space like a million fucking times.
Oh, what was weird in another Hulk comic, Hulk used a gun and killed Abomination. And then Abomination's ghost came and haunted Red Hulk, and he still had the bullet holes in his ghost. And I'm like, oh, that's still canon. I didn't know that was still canon. There's just a giant red or a green Abomination ghost with bullet holes in him. And I'm like, how is this still canon?
Dude, I don't even know. I think the weirdest one I read was the Hulk was sleeping with Abomination's like ex-wife. And sleeping with Bruce Banner. And Bruce Banner didn't know that was his ex-wife. And he's like, how'd you get all these scars on your face? And she's like, oh, my husband is Abomination. He slapped me around. And he's just like, huh.
How bizarre.
He like tried to change the subject in the comic. He's like, well, that's fucking weird. So how about these eggs?
That is evasion level 10 out of 10. It's great.
So she starts telling him, and she's like, yeah, I wanted to like kill him, so I kind of like sold you out to the government, so you're gonna have to fight him in like an hour. And he's like, well, that's fucking lame.
Bruce gets used in a lot of relationships, and that's something that we also don't see.
Sap.
Yeah, he's a simp. It's pronounced simp.
Whatever that means.
But that new Avengers game has a really interesting take on it, and maybe we'll do an episode on that later. That Incredible Hulk comic was done by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, by the way. It's the original Hulk run. But like I was saying, he eventually got merged in comics. So when comics don't do well, they'll merge comics. So like Luke Cage and Iron Fist comics didn't do well in the 70s, which was a surprise. Or like in the 80s. So they made Heroes for Hire, where they grouped up a bunch of those heroes so they can still write them and sell them. They
like,
did
you're
that,
only good as side characters.
basically. And they did it with Hulk and Ant-Man, which I was surprised about because I thought Ant-Man was the shit back then. But I guess not. And that's where the leader came in. Oh, I want to talk about the villains. So we have the leader, Thunderbolt Ross, and Emil Blonsky, who's Abomination.
Who's pretty frequently Abomination, right? There's not somebody else.
Rick Jones has been Abomination a couple times, or he's A-Bomb, sorry.
Okay, so there's a distinction.
There's a distinction. One of them's blue, but he looks the same.
Gotcha.
One's blue, one's green. That's about it, though.
Because Emil Blonsky's in the movie.
Yeah. Emil Blonsky's in the movie. Usually he is Russian, which, does that bug you that he's played by Tim Roth?
I really don't care.
Because in the comics, he doesn't have like a Russian, like when Black Widow, when she is Russian.
Well, he's British.
No, I'm aware. And they mentioned that in the movie. Oh, yeah, he's from Russia, but he defected and blah, blah, blah. He was raised in England or something. They mention it, so it's not like super out of place. But I just kind of like when Russians have Russian accents.
Dude, yeah, that's getting really annoying.
I'm getting sick of it.
I wouldn't care if the actors, like Tim Roth didn't even try to do a Russian accent. So I'm like, well, I can't fault you, dude. You knew you couldn't do it, or you didn't feel like you wanted to do it. So just ignore it. But when you have like, I'm pretty sure, I have to watch this back just so I know that I'm right. Scarlett Johansson straight up had a Russian accent.
I think you're wrong about
in
this.
Iron Man 2.
Pretty sure you're wrong.
It was just really, really bad. And then she just totally dropped it. The same thing happened with Elizabeth Olsen.
She dropped it after 3 movies, though.
Well, that's really weird, though. Just keep doing it. It's called acting.
I think they're supposed to, quote unquote, assimilate. I don't know. I think that's what they're trying to say.
That's not how assimilation works.
Okay, I'm just saying what they're going for.
I think the actor's just like, I don't want to do this anymore.
People really didn't like her accent. I thought it was fine.
Oh, she wasn't even really from Russia, so
Sokovia.
She's from a made-up country.
Yeah, so what I think in Tales to Astonish number, I think 60 through like 65. The first one was done by Stanley and Burgess. You just kicked me.
Your mouth wasn't on the mic.
Oh, I was reading. Okay. So in those ones, they establish actually Emil Blonsky as Abomination really quickly. And I think it's funny because it's similar to our last episode of Age of Ultron. He's a janitor. Or no, sorry. The leader is a janitor who has a gamma accident and becomes the smartest man on earth, but he was just like a janitor.
Just flip the switch.
He was in a lab when he wasn't supposed to be, and he got gamma irradiated. And then Emil Blonsky was like a Russian spy who was trying to find out more about the technology. Hulk came back in to be like, yo, I want to turn myself human again. And then he got taken away by guards, and then he was like, oh, that was super stupid. So there was just this giant floor panel that if you tapped it, it turned on the machine. I'm like, who the fuck sets the radiation machine to be trigger activated? First of all, how didn't you step on it when you walked in the room? Because the thing is like 6 by 6 feet wide. It's a huge fucking button. Like, it's huge.
I don't think the janitor was allowed in there.
This isn't the janitor. This is Emil Blonsky, the Russian spy.
Okay.
He walked in, somehow snuck around the machine, the lab, hid, and then when he's like, oh, the coast is clear, stepped on the machine and became the Abomination.
He's like, that was strangely easy.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. In the video game, you said that Abomination looks like a lizard.
Yeah.
He originally does look like a lizard, and they describe him as a reptile-y fish kind of person.
Yeah, he straight up looks like Swamp Thing in some of these comics.
Yeah, so I think it's interesting that they did that in that game. And in this movie, he doesn't really look like a lizard. He just looks...
No, he just looks fucking ugly.
Looks like an abomination.
Yeah.
Lives up to the name. Spiky.
Well, there was one version that I liked where he kind of looks more like a crocodile, kind of. Like scaly skin and shit. And this, it was more kind of... He looked like a rock.
Yeah, he looks like a rock sometimes, which I don't love because I'm like, that's what the thing is for.
Yeah, and he had like holes in his back and shit.
That's the one that got shot, by the way.
The whole back one?
Yeah. It's weird.
It's funny.
And then, so that's Abomination. I don't feel like they've ever done anything really unique with him. I looked in the Ultimate comics because there's 2 versions of Abomination. There's the regular Abomination and then the Ultimate Abomination. From what I read, they're nearly identical. Please, if someone's read more Ultimate comics, I don't think they're all up to date on Marvel Unlimited with the Ultimates. So you're welcome to send us some. If you think we miss anything, please let us know, and we'll make a retraction episode or something like that. And
an entire
episode of all our mistakes. We'll just group them together. But as far as I know, they're the same thing. Always a Eastern European or Russian spy who somehow gets entwined with the Gamma Project.
The Hulk was written during the
Cold War.
Around the Cold War, so it makes sense.
A lot of villains were Russian for reasons.
Cold War reasons.
Yeah, Cold War reasons. Can't trust those Ruskies, am I right? Still can't. They're freaking on Facebook.
They're just having fun.
And then in that same series, the leader is really weird. So, like in the movie, he's a scientist, but he's actually very rarely a scientist. The Gamma is what makes him smart. And like I said, he was a janitor. In the movie, he's a scientist who works with Bruce. I couldn't find anything about that, like the leader and Bruce working together. Sometimes the leader will control Hulk. So in the first comic, he convinces Hulk to go to the Watcher's planet. He fights like some red gorilla for like 3 days or something, like Balrog status, and he brings back an orb, like a magical orb, and the leader was like, yes, now I can use this to take over the world. It turns out he's deadly allergic to the orb, and he just fucking dies, and Hulk just is standing in his lab like, oh, he died. And like it just ends with him dead. And I'm like, is he still under mind control? Does Hulk just starve in that cave, or does he leave? Like, what the hell?
So anticlimactic.
Yeah, he just dies because the orb kills him. And then in the later comic, he's like, I faked my death. And everyone's like, why would you fake it? Death. The problem with the leader I have as a villain is he, as strong as Hulk is, the leader is smart. And Hulk's very fucking strong. This guy isn't smart. He's never had a plan that I'm like, oh, that's smart. Like Lex Luthor's had some plans where I'm like, oh, that's smart. Or Dr. Doom, I'm like, holy shit, you stole the power of the gods. This guy, I'm like, you're on fucking crack. You have never had an idea that is remotely interesting, let alone smart.
I wonder what, like, since, Abomination Blonsky is supposed to be around the Cold War, who was this guy?
A janitor.
That they're basing off
a shady
at the time.
Janitor.
Just like Stan Lee's just looking at the janitor like through his office, like,
yeah, he probably spilled a mop bucket. And he's like, this guy's a fucking idiot.
Killing him off.
If he was in a Gamma lab, he'd be dead. I bet he would get his orb and die because he's allergic to it.
I'm just gonna end it right there. That's the comic. That's what I'm ending it on.
And like I was saying, Leader is a very prominent Hulk villain. I I haven't read a whole bunch of Hulk comics, but he's never done anything where I'm like, he hasn't had a killing joke moment like Joker, or he hasn't had a Doctor Doom moment where he's taken over the world. Like I haven't really seen Leader do anything all that impressive.
For sure. And honestly, the Abomination stuff I read was more interesting.
Way more engaging.
Like I read one from 91, Incredible Hulk. I think it's 383 to 84, where the Hulk has like marriage problems because he's Professor Hulk, so he's
sure
Hulk all the time. And Betty's problem is she doesn't feel like Bruce needs her anymore.
Right.
Because he'll just walk away from an argument and he doesn't even try and fix anything. And she's like, well, when he was Bruce needed me all the time. But what happens is Abomination is looking for his wife or his ex-wife, and he kidnaps her, and the Hulk goes after him, and he has to come to terms with the fact that he's not the same man anymore, and he's very fucking ugly, and he has done some really shitty things. And so the Hulk, weirdly, Thanos snaps the gauntlet and the Hulk shrinks to like 6 inches and a bunch of people die. But this story is still going on in the meantime. So the Hulk like pretends to be God in his ear and says like, yo, just let her go, blah, blah, blah. But then at the end of the comic, Abomination is like, I knew it was you, but I knew that was the right thing to do, to just let my wife go.
There's just weird comics. Like,
It's
it's sweet, but it's also like, oh, that's fucking weird.
It was really strange. See, again, I think I wish like comic writers would talk about why they wrote what they wrote, just because that sounds like, some shit was going on in that writer's life at the time. It could just feels random with given everything going on within the story.
Oh, by the way, I kind of messed up. Yeah, those Tales to Astonish were number 62 and 90 for the Leader and Abomination, respectively. But yeah, Hulk's had some weird comments, and there's just so much Hulk stuff that we haven't seen. The movie very loosely captured a lot of elements. It captured that Thunderbolt Ross was trying to capitalize on the Hulk, and he makes Hulkbuster units to take down the Hulk. That was all there. He was trying to cure himself. I've seen him try to meditate, peacefully, take breathing exercises, sedate himself. All that's in the movie.
I think it kind of took like an approach like The Dark Knight did, where it pulled all the best elements or the best story elements and kind of mixed it together into one.
There are some elements we haven't seen. We've never seen Thunderbolt Ross turn into Red Hulk, which I always maintain that the formula that was stolen in Civil War, there's like a red vial that was taken by Crossbones. I still want to say that was the Red Hulk formula.
Sure.
I don't know what happened to it. I think they got it back. But anyways, and I've always wanted to see Red Hulk versus Hulk. That's like one of the few things I still want to see. Red Hulk versus Hulk. She-Hulk we'll get into when that Disney Plus series drops in like 4 years or something. I've always wanted to see more about the personalities. Not necessarily Joe Fixit, but Hulk's a big part of Bruce Banner is his personal or his side personalities. And it would be interesting to kind of see that. Like Hulk comics are dark. And kind of like...
Yeah, they can be, for sure.
What you liked about the Ang Lee film, Hulk's father was abusive, like crazy abusive. And a lot of that has caused him to have split personalities, which each Hulk that has a different personality is either stronger, smarter, more savage. They all act differently.
Well, and what's interesting about that is, like, to me, Bruce Banner as a character, there's always... Because he's so meek and nice, I feel like that's something that's inside of him that he like never really got out, if that makes sense. Sure. And I think that's why Hulk manifested himself or itself the way that it did. If that like with Captain America, Cap has like a pure heart, but Bruce has this like rage that he's just never come to terms with, and that's what became the Hulk. Whereas Captain America had a good heart and he was a good person, which is why only he could be Captain America.
So you think Bruce succeeded in creating the super soldier serum? He didn't
fit the mold in the right way.
He has his own demons. Oh, that's an interesting take. I haven't heard that. Huh. What else? was I going to say? Yeah, I think the movie does a great job of capturing. There's just stuff, like you've said, that we haven't seen and we won't see. We haven't seen other love interests of Bruce. We haven't seen Betty Ross in a minute. And they had that villain, the leader, who had Bruce's blood spill into his brain and he got superpowers. I think that's like the worst superhero origin, just blood spilling into your head.
Yeah, I mean,
if anything, you should get an infection.
The comics speak for themselves based off of what you read.
Yeah. I think the janitor story almost makes more sense. It's very rare that a comic book origin makes more sense than an adaptation in a movie.
Oh, I meant to say in that comic where Abomination's ex-wife dupes the Hulk and sleeps with him, there is a reference to Mr. Green and Mr. Blue.
Oh, yeah, that's the code names they use that the leader, Stearns, and Banner use to talk to each other.
Yeah. So just subtle things, really.
Yeah, the movie's pretty complex, and it doesn't hit you over the head with stuff. It's not an Age of Ultron, and I had to do a little bit of digging to find these references, but they're all there. You could have easily just read a couple of Hulk comics and made this movie, or you could just pick up a Hulk comic and see parallels, but they're not like direct callbacks necessarily. Mm-hmm. They're just thematic tones that are captured over 60 years of comics. 70, 60 years, something like that.
Close enough.
But yeah, what do you think in terms of the comics? Do you think this is a movie better on its own or an adaptation of comics?
I think it's a fair version of the character. So I think if I didn't read comics and saw this movie, I'd be interested to read comics after.
So how do we rate movies again? It's been so long. As a comic book movie, what do you rate it?
Like an 8.
Mm-hmm. And as a movie, what do you rate it?
Probably like a 8.5.
I'm gonna say as a comic book movie, I rate it a 7.
I thought you were gonna say that.
You say that every time I rate something. I thought you were gonna say that.
I know you're gonna say.
But no matter what I say, you can still say. Anyways,
next time I'll just guess then.
Okay,
and I'll be right.
I'll leave the room. You guess, and then I'll come back. And I think as a movie, as a comic book movie, it's a 7. But as a movie, I enjoyed it as like a 9. Like it's actually one of my more favorite movies. Mm-hmm. And it's just kind of a shame that we never got a sequel or touch up on this.
I think it's a shame the movie just has never gotten any like support
praise.
From fans, or praise at all. Because I think it's really well done. And the same director did Clash of the Titans, the latest one.
We don't have to talk about that.
The Sam Worthington one.
Why would you trash the man's legacy?
I think that's a fun movie.
It's a fun movie. Completely relevant. All right. We may be on the DC wagon next week, or we may do another top villains or side characters in movies episode.
Or a few episodes, who knows?
Sure. If we made any mistakes this episode, please let us know. If you think there was a comic we missed, let us know.
Or if you just want to chat about comics, let us know.
I don't know. But anyways, that's going to be the episode today. Thank you guys for watching. You don't watch to podcast unless you just look at the logo. I meant listening.
Joe Rogan does.
I'm used to the YouTube stuff. I'm used to the YouTube outro. Lead us out.
All right. Later, players.
I don't like bullies. I don't care where they're from.